Look, I do not endorse or approve of the violence that's happening in Minneapolis or anywhere else across this country. But I would be lying if I said I didn't get it. Is it okay? No. Should it be happening? No. But it is the least surprising part of this entire case. Of course, it would be better for people to protest nonviolently. But until real justice is served, people are going to act out. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's going to turn violent. Especially when you look at the fact that the police officers were shooting rubber bullets and firing tear gas into that crowd. Why is it that when a group of, people of color and white liberals decide to protest, the police open fire with rubber bullets and tear gas, but in the same state a couple of weeks ago, you had fully armed with AR-15s and bazookas marching into the state capitol, screaming and yelling in cops' faces, and they did nothing. Nothing. They just stood there and took it. But the second the protesters are people of color, you see rubber bullets flying, you see tear gas, and it's unacceptable. Who really started that riot? I mean, I'm not blaming the people for trying to have some level of crowd control, but you can't help but recognize there's an imbalance there. And you tell people, well, we should be protesting nonviolently. Of course we should. But in the same time, look around this country. Look at what happens when people protest nonviolently. They are either completely ignored or they get the Colin Kaepernick and the NFL players treatment, where they're painted out to be unpatriotic, they're painted out to hate America, to be ungrateful, when all they're trying to do is start a conversation about police violence in this country. I mean, and people ask me, well, why are you blaming Trump? Why is this Trump's fault? Well, I mean, a couple of years ago, he said this.
And when you see these towns and when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
You can't watch that video and not see a connection between what happened in Minneapolis with those police officers and those kinds of statements. Now, yeah, he said if they committed a murder, but those kind of things trickle down. Those kind of things have an effect. They empower violence. They empower police overreach. Those kind of statements are not acceptable. They're never going to be acceptable. So yeah, get mad at me for saying this is partially on Trump. Get mad at me for blaming Fox News for saying these kinds of things are a problem. But it's the Fox Newses of the world that are constantly painting anyone who's protesting out to be thugs and villains and criminals. So be mad at me if you want, but that doesn't change the reality of what's happening. What we have to do is come together as a country and find a way to solve these problems where the people pointing out that there's a problem aren't painted out to be the villains. They're the victims. And until we can find some level of real justice in this country, we're going to continue seeing things like what happened in Minneapolis, where you're going to see buildings set on fire. And it's not okay, and it's not right, but it's going to keep happening. We have to have a real, honest conversation in this country, because until we do, we're going to see more of the same thing.